Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Laura. I'm super excited to hang out with you this evening. Let's chat, let's catch up. I can answer any questions, help you if you're feeling stuck. I hope you're feeling amazing this summer. It is getting hot. Sometimes we lose a little bit of our appetite in the summer, or we just are looking for some non-heavier meat options. So I'm happy to talk about that. I'm happy to chat through whatever's on your mind. It does feel a little strange just acting normal and living our lives and like streaming about this when there's so much chaos and turmoil that's happening in the world. But sometimes all you can do is say a prayer and turn it off and try to live our lives. We control, we can control. We focus on our health, our life, and we have to turn things over that are out of our control at this point and pray for guidance from others. So the biggest thing is focusing on your own health and your own fitness. I am trying to just limit stress as much as possible. That's definitely been my goal. I've been focusing a lot on trying to get better sleep. And for the first time in a very, very long time, I have been exercising regularly. You guys know that I am in the last 7 years since I've been doing carnivore, exercise has not been just like a very consistent part of things. I lost my first 100 pounds without exercising at all. And then after I was down about 100 pounds, I realized if I wanted to tone up and then I was helping with loose skin, I decided to start incorporating some exercise. And this was back in like 2019. And I did a pretty good job then. The problem was that I kind of pushed myself a little too far, and I'm a very obsessive person. So I got a little crazy. I was just over exercising and under eating a little bit. And it ended up kind of being an over stressor for me. And so I took a break at that point and I never really got back into it. I've never just found exercise that I love. My husband is very active. He goes to the gym every morning. He trains jujitsu. He goes for a long walk in the afternoons, even in this crazy Arizona heat that we have. So he's always been very active and loved it. He's a snowboarder. I have never really done sports. I have never been somebody who loves exercise. And so anyway, the point is, it has been officially 2 weeks now that we're just going to call it like exercising. And mostly it's walking. Like I'm standing at my stand-up desk right now. I've had a walking pad for the last couple of years that I've used like twice, and it's been under my bed, like compiling dust. And so I got it out, and this is where I work my normal like corporate job, my Monday to Friday corporate job. And I have been trying to like walk and work at the same time quite a bit. And it's bled into me just doing I have couple of weights here. So I'm doing some arm exercises while I work out. I'm doing lots of like shoulders while I'm walking, little mini stuff. And I have just been like hitting, I think like anywhere between 10 and 15,000 steps a day. Yesterday, I think I hit almost like 20,000 steps, which from a very sedentary person, that I'm very proud of myself. So I have noticed some changes. I'm hoping over time it can still continue to help with energy, with just, it does make you hungrier though. I think that's the interesting thing that, exercise is great. I think it's actually though, it's great. We want to build muscle. We need to have strong muscles as we age. It's what's going to protect you as you age. But exercise and weight loss often are counterproductive. I stood on this walking pad and I maxed it out to the fastest speed that it would go. And I walked hard for like an hour, and it said I burned like 200 calories. Okay. That's like, I don't know, 3 Oreos or whatever it is. Like you are never going to be able to exercise enough to fix eating poorly. And so that's something interesting I've learned. Also, when you're exercising a ton, it actually like increases my appetite. I find that I'm hungrier. So that's actually can be helpful for you if you find that you're under eating and you're trying to increase your appetite and trying to eat more. then adding in a brisk walk after your meals or a couple times a day can actually help increase your appetite and help you eat more, which I think can be helpful. But, you know, I'm trying to just do lots of walking right now, hopefully build a little muscle on my legs, potentially tone things up. Really just focusing on just overall heart health, longevity, just for, I mean, isn't it supposed to be good for us? I don't know. We'll see. I'm 2 weeks in. I'm keeping my expectations low of myself, and I'm just trying to take it one day at a time. So good to see everybody tonight. I'm glad you guys could pop in. Yeah, I'm curious. Arizona is like, I mean, it's in our air conditioners on, and I'm always cold inside, so I'm always wearing a sweatshirt. But it's been like 115 degrees Fahrenheit here this week. It's supposed to, or like this past week, it's supposed to cool down a little bit. But is it hard for you to eat adequately when it's this hot? And also, is it hard for you to be exercising? Like, I don't think I'm as tough as Chris. Just got a weighted vest too for his walks. So he's outside in this 110 degree heat in the afternoons with a weighted vest. Like, he's a beast. I'm not that strong. I'm walking in the air conditioning inside. Awesome. Made your meatballs today, and next week is burnt ends. Love it. I have a big batch of meatballs that I made and froze, and so we're going to be stocked up for the week. So that is really exciting. Do you wear sunscreen? No, I don't, but I also, and I like want sun exposure. But I don't fall into those carnivores who say it's impossible to burn when you're eating carnivore. I do not burn easily. I really never did. I just try to monitor when I'm in the sun. So like we have a pool. My kids spend hours outside in the pool. We don't, you know, they're going to go out there more like in the late afternoon and the evening. My daughter never wears sunscreen. She's just very olive complexion. She doesn't burn. And she, you know, as long, if she was out, obviously at like 12 to 2, she would burn. My son is a redhead. He's very fair skinned. He burns very easily. So he'll wear a sun shirt, and then I do like some of the mineral sunscreen just on his, like the back of his neck and ears and face, just because he burns so easily. But I think rather than wearing sunscreen, we try to strategically plan when we're in the sun, how long we're being exposed to sun. You guys know I go tanning. Like, I think the sun is good for you. It's a good source of vitamin D. A tanning bed can also be a really good source of vitamin D. Being tan, it's good for my mental health. It's good for my skin. And so I do red light therapy. I've been trying to do, since I have the scars on my arm, I've been trying to do the red light therapy bed like 5 days a week. I only tend to go in the tanning bed like once a week. And I'm keeping my scars from my brachioplasty. I'm keeping my scars away from the sun. So I want them to be in the red light because that's supposed to help them heal and reduce their visibility. But you don't want your scars to have sun exposure for like the first year. So I'll lay in the tanning bed, but I'll keep my arms covered. Sometimes though, I'll go lay outside in my backyard in the sun, and I'll do that in like a peak time of day to get some good UV exposure. But I would monitor myself and kind of do like a 10 or 15 minutes of like direct sun exposure so that I'm not gonna like burn. You know, there's a lot of misconceptions about the sun and tanning in general. And obviously, like, we don't want to burn. That's the negative thing. But if you monitor yourself properly, then you won't burn. Oh wait, I did that one. Sorry. Next one. How do you deal with the loss of appetite with the heat? That is definitely a big challenge. I feel like the other day I had to stay in a hotel for work for a night, and I was running around and it was so hot. I finished work. I went to In-N-Out and I was in the hotel gym. This is what it was. I was in the hotel gym. I was walking with an incline for like an hour, which was like, I'm used to walking on my little flat walking pad here. And then I went to the treadmill and walked in an incline, and that was an entirely different difficulty level. Like, that was way more intense. That was crazy. So I had just worked out for an hour. I went to In-N-Out. I ate a pound of meat, and then I drove to the sauna, and I was going to sit in the sauna. And as I was walking through the parking lot, and it was like 110 degrees, It was so hot and I just was instantly nauseous. And I was like, this is a terrible combination of like intense workout, eat a pound of meat, go sit in the sauna. So I turned around and left and just realized it probably wouldn't, it felt good to do that. So part of it for me is monitoring when and how much I'm eating. You know, in the summertime, I tend to eat smaller meals because eating a ton in one sitting doesn't feel as comfortable, especially if you're hot. I also incorporate a lot more colder recipes, chicken salad. I had cold chicken wings yesterday, like chicken wings that I ate that were just left over and I just ate them cold. I can make my own version of a deli meat, which is like a roast beef. I do, you know, that I like that cold. What else? You know what I do is today we had pork souvlaki. So these pork kebabs, and I had some tzatziki sauce and a little feta cheese. And I'll tell you what, the cold cucumber dill yogurt sauce and some feta cheese and the pork with like the pork I had marinated in a little bit of like lemon juice and some other seasonings. When I finished that meal, it felt like I had just eaten a big salad. Like it felt very fresh, and you can kind of do the same thing with chicken or steak, but you know, mixing up for me, because I tolerate seasonings well, like having different flavors that can bring some brightness to it, or having those little bit of cheeses and things really helps to make me feel like I'm having a fresh summer meal. I mean, you also could just cold bacon or deli meat and cheese, and there's other things you can do that you don't feel like you're having something quite so heavy. But, you know, being careful of when and how much I'm eating at once is a big way for me to do that. Okay, let me jump in and answer some more questions. But before I get too far, I do want to mention that this video is sponsored by Element. Also, this blue matches my sweatshirt. That's a coincidence. You guys already know I am a big fan of Element. And one thing that we do in the summer is, since I've been exercising and since it's so hot here, I have been doing extra electrolytes. So I always have the unflavored electrolytes in the morning, which is just the sodium, magnesium, potassium. And it's in these really convenient little packets. And then because of the heat and just, I notice a huge difference if I'm not adding a second electrolyte packet in the summer. So I have been doing the lemonade salt, which is their newest flavor, and they've actually reformulated it. It's a lot cleaner. So if you've been concerned about some of the other ingredients in the past, like it's still sweetened with stevia, but they've changed up how they do their natural flavors. And so it has like a natural lemon flavor in it, but then it still is this like really convenient packet of the sodium, magnesium, and potassium. And I just throw that in my water and love a second one. Chris, also, they have the sparkling cans, which are really clean, and they don't have any of those like flavor carriers either. And they have like grapefruit and citrus, and Chris comes home from that like long afternoon hot walk and has like the sparkling lemonade, or the can of sparkling Element. There we go. And they give you this if you go to drinkelement.com/LAURAESPATH. They're going to send you a free sample pack. And as of like last week, they've changed how they're doing their free sample pack. So before it was like one of everything, and now they're taking their most popular flavors and they're giving you 2 of each of those. So now their sample pack that you can get for free with any purchase on that link is going to have 2 citrus, which is probably Chris's favorite, 2 raspberries, 2 watermelon, and 2 orange salts. So that's what the sample pack is going to be now, which is great because you can really, like, if there's 2 different people in your house that want to try the same flavor, you don't have to fight over those packets anymore. And those are their most popular flavors. They have 100% money back guarantee as well. So, you know, if you're wanting to, because you're getting those other flavors, if you're somebody who tolerates stevia and you're wanting to try a variety, I would suggest getting the lemonade salt, and then you could try the rest of their flavors, their popular flavors with that sample pack. And then, you know, if you're like, want to keep it super clean and 0 sweeteners and 0 anything, go with the unflavored. And if it's too salty for you, just start with a half a packet, water it down a little bit more. So I know I am hearing, literally, look at this. Lemonade salt's the best. It does. It tastes like summer. Lemonade is so good. I saw somebody earlier, Love Element just placed another order, having twice a day. I honestly can tell such a difference in the way that I feel, in the way that I sleep when I'm having two. And I, you know, in the winters, I really don't need 2 packets, but with the exercise that I'm doing now, I 100% need 2 packets every day. And I will tell you, I like the worst part about all of this exercise that I've been doing is I am just constantly sweaty. I'm not somebody who just ever really gets very sweaty, but I'm exercising in the mornings, then I take a shower, and then I'm usually exercising again in the afternoon, and then I go to the sauna, so then I need another. I feel like I'm changing my clothes like 3 times a day because I'm just constantly sweaty. I'm taking like 2 showers a day. I told Chris, like, this is very time consuming. It has been a lot. I put the raspberry and lemon in iced tea. That sounds amazing. Yeah, you know, the lemonade salt, I think, put it in like unsweetened iced tea, and you have an Arnold Palmer. You could make, I made some popsicles for the kids. You can put it in sparkling water. There was a couple other ideas that we had for that. Oh, I saw somebody say they put a half a pack of the raspberry and a half a pack of the lemon, and they made like a raspberry lemonade. There's like so many fun things you could do with it. But yeah, I have been going through, poor Chris does all the laundry, and he's been having to do laundry like so much more often because of the fact that I'm just like going through all my clothes, so quickly because I'm so sweaty. Love the orange. That's a good one. Okay. Does drinking mineral water work the same as electrolytes? Brand I'm using is San Pellegrino. So mineral water has minerals in it. It's not going to contain that level of sodium. You know, electrolytes are going to have 1,000 milligrams of sodium in it. And let me explain, like, the reason why sodium is needed is that when your body, it's like, obviously carb eaters drink Element as well. I know a lot of people who are athletes and they drink Element. Your body will help you stay hydrated when you are drinking that amount of sodium. So the reason why I think sodium gets kind of a bad rap, or people are concerned about it causing high blood pressure, is when you are already eating so many carbs and your body's already retaining water, and then you're adding more sodium on top of it, and it's going to kind of cause any type of swelling. I am not eating carbs, and so my body is flushing out all of that water weight. That's usually why people, when they first go carnivore, they see that initial flush in the first week or so, because your body's flushing out all of that water. Well, sometimes we've over flushed our system, and we need the sodium to help us stay hydrated, or no matter how much water you drink, you are going to end up dehydrating yourself. So mineral water has other great benefits and minerals in it, but it's not going to have that level of sodium in it. That is what's going to help keep you hydrated. So, you know, I would kind of go based on how you feel. Do you need those electrolytes? That's just going to depend on, do you have headaches? Do you have muscle cramps? Are you feeling fatigued? Are you just feeling drained overall? Do you have a slow digestive system? Like, those are all signs that you might need some more electrolytes. And so you can just take a very clean salt and add it to your water. You know, I love Element and I love the flavors and the convenience, but on their website, they actually have the ratio for all of their recipes for free. And you could just mix up your own version. You know, before I started using Element, I was just pouring salt into my water. And so sometimes the ratio of that was a little off sometimes. So for me, it's just easier to use the packets. It's a little bit more of a science, but if anything else, I would start with taking that San Pellegrino and like putting some salt in it, and then maybe even some additional magnesium. Oh my gosh, that's so interesting. I put the lemonade salt on seafood for seasoning. That sounds really good. Where can I find your meatball recipe? If you just search for my videos, if you just search for like LAURAESPATH meatballs, it's going to pop up. They're bacon cheeseburger meatballs. I have a full YouTube video with it. And I also have if you want to watch a shorter version, I have a 1-minute YouTube short where you can just watch that 1-minute version. In the 1-minute version, I did use raw bacon. And in the longer version, I use already cooked bacon crumbles. I prefer it with the cooked bacon. I like, the bacon doesn't really cook all of the way and get crispy when you're starting with raw bacon. So that's the only thing that if you go back, that video is very old, but if you go back and watch that old YouTube short, then I would just use, like, the only thing I would change is I would make cooked bacon. Sorry, I'm trying to read at the same time. It's very difficult. Okay, Kimberly said, Laura, got my lab work back yesterday and it shows my cholesterol is elevated, which I've never had before carnivore. Is yours like this? What do you suggest? So unfortunately, when doctors give you your cholesterol numbers, they're typically giving you your total cholesterol. And obviously the disclaimer is I'm not a doctor and I'm not giving you advice, medical advice. But your doctor likely gave you a total cholesterol number and said, this is elevated. That total cholesterol number doesn't actually really tell you what's going on. What you have to understand is, what is your HDL? What is your LDL? What are your triglycerides? And what I personally am looking for is triglycerides are under 100. My HDL needs to be, I always forget the number, but like my HDL is like in the 50s, which is great. And then my LDL has ranged at different points. It's like slightly elevated to a more normal range. I honestly am looking for my LDL to be slightly elevated as long as my triglycerides are under 100, my HDL is in that good, 40 to 60 range. Because a higher LDL, your body needs fat and needs cholesterol in order to function properly. Women especially need higher, not crazy, like higher LDL to have proper hormones. And there's actually studies that show that people with an elevated LDL actually live longer. And that's because it is a sign of like healthy fats that are being utilized through your body. Now, a couple of things. If you have fasted too long before you get your blood work done, so if you were 24 hours fasted before your blood draw, think about the fact that your body is utilizing fat for fuel. And when you are fasted for a very long period of time, your body is going to start utilizing all of your stored fat, and it's going to kind of start like moving all that fat and cholesterol through your blood. So when you have your blood draw, your cholesterol is going to look very elevated, like artificially elevated. So Dr. Berry talks about you don't want to have a blood draw for cholesterol, especially without being more than 12 hours fasted, like 12 to maybe 14 hours max fasted is how long you want to go. If I have a blood draw at 8 or 9 a.m., at 8 o'clock at night, I am eating eggs and bacon. Even if I'm not hungry, I want to give my body some fat to kind of like calm down all of that extra crazy fat burning. So I've had friends before that did a 24, 36 hour fast. They got their cholesterol drawn and it was like 300. And then they went back after being 12 hours fasted and their cholesterol was normal. So that's just something to be aware of, is how long were you fasted when you went in? And then also, like I said, it's really understanding the ratio of your LDL, your triglycerides. I would suggest getting the book, like How to Stay Off My Operating Table by Dr. Phil Ovadia. He's a heart surgeon who talks about like keto and fat-based diets and does that really well. There's a lot of other really good information out there about cholesterol and what you should be looking for. And even if your LDL is like really, really high and you're scared of that, there's a secondary test that you can do that looks for particle size. Like, do you have big fluffy LDL particles or tiny, small, little ones? And like one of them is good and one of them is bad. So kind of go down this rabbit hole a little bit if you want, of understanding, like, honestly, like my total cholesterol recently was like 204. And that is like the lowest that it's been for me in 7 years carnivore. And to be honest, it was a sign for me that I was probably under eating fat the last few months. And so I've made some changes, and that was part of the reason why I've boosted up. My LDL, or my total cholesterol, has typically been around like the 220 range. Chris's is closer to like 250. But again, our triglycerides are under 100. HDL is like 54, somewhere on there. And then my LDL is what varies. So those are things that I would understand, unfortunately, doctors are required to prescribe a statin if your total number is above a certain number. But yet they're not really digging into the details of all that, which is a shame. So yeah. Let me see here. Sorry, I'm trying to. So I've been following a carnivore diet for 2 weeks. While the inflammation has significantly improved, I haven't experienced any weight loss yet. So 2 weeks is pretty early. I know it's hard because we want very quick results. So I would say part of it too is understanding like how much weight do you have to lose. You know, if you have 100 pounds to lose, you're going to expect to see a little quicker results than if you're just trying to lose like 15 to 20 pounds or something like that. It also depends on like what were you eating before this. If you were eating leaner, calorie restriction, eating a lot of salads, like your body is probably trying to kind of like refuel itself or re-nourish itself. If you had been in like a lot of restriction previously, when you switch to carnivore, sometimes your body's just trying to like be nourished again because you're finally giving it like a ton of nutrients. And so there is that balance. I think, you know, my biggest tips, I think the number one question I get every single day is like, how do I lose weight? Why am I not losing weight? What's not working? And so let's just talk about like the bigger scale of weight loss for a second. There's kind of like 3 main reasons why you, maybe 4, not losing weight. And number 1 is you're eating too much. Number 2 is you're eating too little, which is possible. I've been through this. I see this all the time. You're under eating. You're eating 800, 1200, 1000 calories a day, and your body and your metabolism is shutting down because you're under eating, right? We understand the concept of like, oh, I'm not losing weight because I'm overeating. That one makes sense to us. But this concept of like, I'm under eating, so your body thinks it's starving, and so it's not going to release excess weight because it thinks it needs to store it because it doesn't know when you're going to give it food next. So under eating is specifically under eating energy, which is fat in carnivore's case. When you're under eating energy, your body is just really going to hang on to everything. So overeating, under eating, not eating clean enough, I think, you know, like too much dairy, too much processed meats, too much snacking, like the consistency. Maybe you're having carbs. This is not talking to Maria specifically, but just in general, like maybe you're having little bits of carbs here or there. You're having some keto treats here and there. You're having peanut butter. Maybe you're having alcohol. You're having something that's holding you back. So like something you're doing is causing you to not be consistent enough, or is causing you to just not lose weight because it's not clean enough. So there's that. You can like be honest with yourself, tighten things up a little bit. I've had to do that many times over the last 7 years. And I think the 4th reason is really just that like there's something else going on. You have a hormone issue, you know, insulin resistance can take a long time to heal. And oftentimes healing and weight loss can go hand in hand, but there are a lot of times when they are counterproductive to each other. And sometimes your body needs more energy and needs to be nourished in order for you to heal. And then you can focus on weight loss. And so sometimes this approach to healing and weight loss is a little, can be very different. And so, you know, my biggest tip is like you're stuck, you're stalled, and you can't figure out what's going on. Like when you're first starting carnivore, I think you should eat the meat that sounds good, eat the meats you could afford, just get started, keep it really simple. Like keep it simple, eat when you're hungry, all the things. After about 2 weeks though, you're probably figuring out, like, you're probably detoxed from all the negative and all that stuff. 2 weeks is about the time, maybe a month is about the time when you can say like, okay, I've gotten off the carbs. I'm being consistent. Now let me make a couple of tweaks. Okay. Not drastically go to one protocol or the other, but let me make a couple of tweaks and see if I can't like boost weight loss or make myself feel better, whatever it is that you're looking for. And in that case, that's when I would start tracking. When people first start carnivore for the first few weeks or months, like I don't even think you should be tracking your calories. You just got to like build a good, consistent plan. But a few weeks or months in, if you're not getting the results that you want, that's where I feel like you need to get an app like MyFitnessPal. I use Carb Manager. You can use Chronometer. And I wouldn't like obsess about it. Like I wouldn't even give yourself specific macros that you want to hit. I think you should just eat what you normally are eating on carnivore and then track it afterwards and find out, am I eating 3,000 calories? or am I eating 1,000 calories? Okay. If we're eating 3,000 calories and we're not an Olympic athlete, we're probably overeating. If we're eating 1,000 calories and you're not 5 foot nothing who's sedentary, like that, even that's still low. Like you're probably under eating. So I think tracking is going to maybe help you identify, are you having some hidden carbs that you didn't know about? Are you under eating? Are you overeating? And then maybe you can start to understand like, oh, well, I'm eating way too little fat. I'm eating, like you can kind of start playing around with those macros a little bit. And kind of identify like what patterns you're seeing. I don't think even then, I think you should just like for a week, just track and see what it really is. Every bite that goes in your mouth. Now, I also think we have to use that as information and not obsess about it, because I mean, how many of you have seen a ribeye in a grocery store and two ribeyes sitting next to each other and one of them is extremely marbled and the other one is not marbled? There's obviously a very different fat content in those two different ribeyes, which means they're going to have two different calorie ratio, like two totally different calories. Well, when I put that in my tracker, it's going to tell me 8 ounces of ribeye is this many calories. It's not taking into account the marbling and the fat and all those kind of things and how much is cooked, like how are you cooking it, all those things. So that's why I think it's like you should try to do some tracking so that you can make a few tweaks, not so that you can like obsess about your macros and your metrics. And I think then once you've kind of identified what's going on, like what is your pattern, what are you doing, then you can make like a small adjustment of adding some fasting. For me, if somebody's eating an adequate amount, they want to reverse type 2 diabetes, they want to reverse insulin resistance, you have to be fasting, right? That's my, like the science, like there's a huge thing is you likely, okay, I'll caveat it, say you likely need to be fasting. But if you're only eating 1,000 calories a day and then you add fasting on top of it, you are going to tank your hormones, tank your energy. And then the next thing you know, you're going to start binging on carbs because your body's so starved for energy. You're going to feel better from eating carbs and you're going to go, carnivore didn't work for me. I felt terrible because you weren't eating enough. You weren't eating enough energy. Okay. So the first thing you have to do is kind of like get yourself in that range of how much should you be eating. You can use like you can Google a TDEE calculator and try to figure out what your macros should be. I take all of that with a grain of salt. I just know that like if I'm over 2,500 calories, it's probably too much. And if I'm under like 1,700, it's probably too little. And I just kind of see how hungry I am and I keep myself in this range. Now, if I'm in that like good range, which for me is kind of like 400 or 500 different calories, if I'm eating adequate amounts and I feel good, then I'm going to add some fasting in it. And that's my favorite lever for weight loss. Personally, I just find the best results for that. And also I think if you're trying to lower your baseline glucose, if you're trying to reverse your type 2 diabetes, my husband, my mom, both were severely diabetic, both on like major medications for their diabetes. They needed to incorporate fasting in order to reverse their diabetes, reverse their insulin resistance. I like on a random old video, somebody commented today saying like, carnivore doesn't work. I can't lose weight. I still have a big gut. I've been doing it perfectly for 2.5 years. Well, a big gut can indicate, especially on a man or woman, I had a very large gut as a woman. And like, it was two things. One, it was insulin resistance. And two, it was a hormone imbalance. Like my hormones were severely imbalanced, which gave me this like very big apron belly. And men get the same thing. Men that are estrogen dominant are going to get these like very big bellies. And the other thing that does that is insulin resistance. So both of those can be really helped by eating enough energy and fasting. So those are kind of the keys that you really need to focus on. Triglycerides are the key. As a retired physician, I agree. Awesome. Thank you for your input. I appreciate that. Any ideas for diarrhea for someone who is a month into carnivore? I want to eat fat, but my body doesn't seem to do well with it. Okay, I'm writing it down. There are some, at this point, you probably need a little bit of like gut support or digestive enzymes. There are some like ox bile supplements that are pretty magical. My mom has her gallbladder, but she has like severe gallbladder flares and also like severe digestive issues, anybody that I know that like is having a hard time digesting fat, you just take two of these ox bile pills with your meal. Or if she's eating like something crazy fatty, like straight up pork belly or like a ton of bacon, she'll take 4 of them. I will link that in the description of this video when I'm I can't do that at the same time and talk. I'm incapable of multitasking. So I will link that, but that would be my biggest suggestion. And then I think over time, your body can adjust. You know, other little tips is you could try to drink less with your meal. When you're, I sometimes, if I get loose stools, it's because I just like drank like, you know, I'm at a restaurant and they filled up my water like 6 times, and it's just, I drink too much and it dilutes your gut acid and you're like kind of flushes you out. Like that's a problem. You can obviously try eating a little less in one sitting. Those are all kind of like temporary fixes, but you know, the easier thing while your body adjusts is just to take those ox bile, because it really helps helps you digest that fat. Okay, cool. Sorry, I'm so far behind. Is it okay to eat a spoonful of tallow? Anybody here do this? I think a lot of people do this, honestly, the tallow bites or the brown butter bites or the other bites. I personally prefer to get my fat from a meat. So bacon, pork belly, chicken skin, ribeye, chuck roast, oxtail. I just had some flanken ribs the other day that were so good and fatty. I don't like my fat to be like super high, and I just don't like, I don't do well. Same thing. I have gut problems. I have digestive issues. I get like loose stools if I'm just eating plain fat. I feel very nauseous when I eat plain fat. And I think your body can like digest it and utilize it better when you're eating meat, but it's better than eating ice cream. So, I mean, you kind of like have to see how you feel. I think though, there is such a thing as eating too much fat and eating too much butter and too many tallow bites and all those things. Especially if you're trying to lose weight. So, you know, kind of, you could see how you feel. Sorry, I'm totally catching up. Any thoughts on blue light? I don't do any, I'm sure it's helpful, but I don't have any blue glasses. That is like one of those things I haven't, any like biohacking stuff. I get asked about this a lot because sometimes I'll post on Instagram where like the me time, which honestly, when I finished this live stream today, Chris has been out of town since Thursday. And he just got back this afternoon, and then I've been doing the live stream. So I've been like working, hanging out with the kids, doing all the things. And now this, I'm like, I need a mental break before I start my work week tomorrow morning. I have a trip. My mom comes later this week. Like we have a very busy week ahead. I need a like couple hour me time. So what I'm going to do when I finish this live stream is I'm going to go lay in a red light therapy bed. I'm going to tan, and then I'm going to go to a 30-minute, 190-degree Fahrenheit dry sauna. And I'm just going to like listen to a podcast, and like all of the biohacking things that I like are just are relaxing for me and make me feel good. That's the main thing. The red light therapy bed, I'm hoping will help with my scars, reduce visibility of my scars from my skin removal surgeries. The tanning bed, like I said, like maybe it's a vanity thing, but I feel better tan. My skin's better. Like I'm going to do that. And then the dry sauna, I like to sweat, you know, it's like, feels like you're exercising and you didn't really do anything. And it's just relaxing for me. So other types of like, I've done cold plunge a few times. That's torture. Why would anybody do that? I don't have access to one of those. Anytime I'm like somewhere that has one, then I do it, but I just like going back and forth between the sauna and the things. So, yeah, it kind of depends on like anything else beyond that. I have not done any research for, or I have no interest in. I know a lot of people really believe in grounding, morning light. Like this is Arizona. The grounding is asphalt or turf or rocks. Like we don't have ground here, and it's 110 degrees in the morning. And I start my workday at 6 a.m. So, because my job is on Central Time. So like, there is no morning light. I'm working. I'm in front of a blue light in the mornings. I think all of those things are great. I think though that they should be things that work within our schedule to enhance our life that we enjoy doing, not things that we feel prisoners to. Like there's all those reels, and isn't there that like documentary about that guy who's trying to like live forever? And so he does all those biohacking things, or people posting their morning routines on, Instagram, or they have these like 3-hour morning routines and they're dunking their faces and doing all these different things. Like at some point your morning routine is actually holding you back from having your life. I used to go to the gym and take a class at the gym, and I would take the 5:30 class at the gym. So I was getting up at like 4:45 in order to go do this intense workout, go to the sauna. I was coming home, jumping straight into work. I wasn't able to eat properly for all of that. And like me trying to do all of these healthy things like exercise actually ended up having me like lose sleep and put me in a worse health position because I was just overly stressing my body with something that's supposed to be good. So I'm not saying all of this is from your blue blockers comment, like that's nothing to do with what you asked, but it just reminds me of like, I get asked a lot about all these biohacking things that I do. I do them because they make me feel good and they're very relaxing for me. And, that's kind of it. I think all of those things should be things that enhance your life and not things that you feel like you have to do, that type of thing. Are eggs a good source of protein? Could I eat eggs for 5 days? I've heard of people doing an egg fast. Is that possible? Yeah, people do. I feel this way. I'll answer the first part first. Eggs are a fine source of protein. One egg is going to have about 6 grams of protein in it. So if you're trying to get 30 grams of protein in your meal, you got to eat, like, I don't know too many people that are going to sit there and eat 5 eggs for a meal, or 5 eggs for a meal. And I think that's, you should be shooting for like ideally like 30 grams of protein or more in a meal. Like I'm eating 120 grams of protein a day in 2 meals. And so eggs are a great source of protein, but most people can't eat a ton of them in one sitting. The reason why people do like egg fasts or sardine fasts or all these other things, I think sometimes it's a way of people just like getting back on track. I see people, they're like, oh, I've been off track. I've been eating stuff I shouldn't. I'm going to like reset and do an egg fast. Well, the egg fast works because, who's going to eat 80 eggs in a day? Like you're probably just reducing your calories, and you're also getting rid of like inflammatory foods and sugar and gluten and all those things. Like there's nothing magical about eating only eggs, and there's nothing magical about eating only sardines, right? I don't think you can pay me enough to eat sardines. The goal is just to like almost narrow what you're allowed to have to limit other foods that might be causing you issues. People lose weight doing those things, but it's probably because they're not eating what they were eating before. And you're probably just eating less calories because you're probably not eating 3,000 calories a day in sardines or in eggs alone. So I think I don't think there's anything different with like doing an egg fast versus doing eggs, beef, chicken, pork, like having just simple, clean meats. I don't think there's anything just like magical about the eggs themselves, if that makes sense. Okay, I really lost my place. We're gonna go all the way down. What brand is the red light therapy bed is, thankfully, it's like at my tanning salon. They have like a full bed you lay into that looks like a tanning bed, but it's all red light. I've looked into buying one of those little boxes for my house, but they're also expensive. And I can just pay the membership. It's like, less than 10 minutes from my house, and I can just go lay there the whole entire time. So yeah. Okay, I'm trying to catch up. Sorry, guys. Do you fast for how long? So I usually eat 2 meals a day most of the time. So whatever that, I usually eat breakfast and lunch. I will say lately with adding exercise, I'm just a little more hungry. So I've been eating like a small dinner occasionally. But I typically am fasting like, 16, 18 hours a day. And then when I was in like major weight loss mode, I was doing a 48-hour fast like twice a week. So I was like literally eating 5 days, and I was skipping 2 full days. I think that was probably too much, especially because on the days that I was eating, I was not eating enough. I was like eating 1,000 calories. So like all those negative things that I talked about earlier from like over fasting, over exercising, under eating, that was me. Caused me a lot of problems. You know, now I still do a 48-hour fast occasionally. I would say now I do it like once or twice a month, but I also am trying to just like maintain where I'm at. I think if I was still trying to lose a lot of weight, I would be doing it once a week. But I think, again, it matters more what you're eating on the other days. And then it also matters, like, what are you trying to heal? Also, you know, fasting is a muscle. And so you can build up to it. I don't expect anybody who's like never fasted more than 12 hours to just go 48 hours. Like that seems pretty crazy. Try going 24 hours. You know, a 24-hour fast is like you eat lunch one day and then you go to lunch the next day. Like it doesn't really feel that long. It's just have lunch, keep yourself busy in the evenings, make yourself busy in the mornings, and then have lunch again the next day. And that's kind of a great way of easing into it and seeing how you feel. Make sure you're having electrolytes. You know, if I'm fasting and I'm not having enough electrolytes, I will get headaches and I'll just feel like really run down. And it's because my body's flushing out all those electrolytes. And I'm not replenishing it with sodium. So I need that. And then the other thing is, I had another point. What was I going to say? Somebody mentioned Dr. Fung. That's what I was going to talk about. So Dr. Fung, somebody mentioned Dr. Fung is fantastic. Megan Ramos also is a part of his network. She has a podcast called Life in the Fasting Lane. And that is a really great place to start if you're wanting to learn more about fasting, understand the science behind it. Like I'm speaking about it from like my personal perspective and my mom and my husband, and it's worked. It's radically changed our lives. Like, yes, carnivore is amazing. Carnivore is amazing because it, you know, makes things very simple. It takes out all of my triggering foods. It makes me not hungry. I'm feeling physically satisfied all of the time. And that is really helpful when you're trying to get off those things. I can't moderate carbs and sugar. Carnivore helps with that. But to be honest, the true lever for weight loss for me has always been fasting. And so that's just obviously like, you know, my personal experience. So Dr. Fung, Megan Ramos, check out the podcast, Life in the Fasting Lane, and see. Yeah, electrolytes though are a must. Way back in the day, I used to just have like literally sodium, potassium and throw it in my water. And then obviously now it's way more convenient to do the element packets, but you got to do that every once in a while. How often do you do blood work? So I go more regularly than, honestly, just mainly because of this, because I want to be able to like show people my blood work and hopefully use that as an example of somebody who's been doing this for a long time and what their blood work might look like. I think without me wanting to kind of like report back to, you know, YouTube and be accountable to my audience that I'm sharing things with, I probably wouldn't get it done almost ever. You know, my husband, I think, hasn't gotten some done in like 3 years. I actually talked to him the other day. I was like, yeah, you probably should do that. Like maybe it's been like 3 or 4 years. So, I mean, I think yearly is fine, but I'll tell you what, this is where you want to, I'm standing right now. So I can't like stand on my soapbox. Well, I'm standing on my walking pad. So here's my little rant for a second. And that is like, you know, the number one money-making thing, like the number one way that the medical industry makes money, okay, is not by prescribing medications, which is what you would think it is. The number one moneymaker for the medical industry is blood work, right? I think sometimes we just go looking for problems that don't exist by testing and testing and testing and testing. Now, blood work can be very informative. It can tell you a lot of things. I think it's very helpful. You know, I think you should know what's going on with your blood work, but I think sometimes like we over test blood work and we get a little obsessed with going down these blood work rabbit holes. And I think people who share online sometimes are a little guilty of like encouraging you to go down these rabbit holes and test like 85 different things. I mean, I've spent like thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars on blood work myself personally. A lot of it's probably unnecessary. So, you know, and what happens when your doctor tests your blood work? They use that information to prescribe you medication. Or you know, my naturopath tests my blood work and then gives me supplements that I buy from her. So it's just a little part of the system, I guess. But I think, I think there's probably helpful to get a lot of things checked like once a year. I do think also that like blood work is very transient. And so sometimes like obviously your A1C is measuring like a 3-month journey, but your cholesterol is very transient. I could get like I said before, I could fast for 36 hours, get my cholesterol tested today, and it's going to be sky high. And I go back 3 days later and it's going to be normal. So, I mean, you kind of have to realize like, what is that blood work really telling you anyway? Some of it is just, tells you a lot. Hi, Donnie said, hi, I'm new here. Love the channel. Thank you. What do you do for a living? It's hard with your diet to do the kind of job that you do. So I am in corporate training, in sales training. So I was with a company previously, like when I lost all of my weight, I had my babies, like I met my husband. I was with the same company for 12 years. So where Chris and I met, we had our kids. Those colleagues watched me gain and lose hundreds of pounds over the years. Like, I'll tell you what, a couple times a year, we were always running like weight loss challenges, like bets with each other. Like that was like, you work with people so long, they kind of end up like family. And we lost and gained a lot of it. So then when I switched to Carnivore, they watched me within a year lose like 120 pounds. We had a senior executive who hadn't been in our office for like 6 or 9 months. And I like went up and said hi, and he reached out and introduced himself. He's like, hi, and said his name. And I was like, it's LAURAESPATH. He's like, holy cow. Like, it's kind of crazy to be in that world and have people watch that from the very beginning, and they see you have a baby, lose weight, have a baby, lose weight, gain weight, lose weight, like they were there for all of it. And so it wasn't hard then, because they knew I was always doing some kind of diet and something. They were always doing some kind of diet with me. Like we all were doing something together. I switched companies. I have been with a new company. It's a software company in the energy industry. And I do like, corporate sales training and coaching for that. And so this is different because I came to this job like already who I am now. And I did say it was weird. Like if I was like interviewing for this job and somebody Googled me, it's kind of would get a little weird maybe. So that was interesting to like wonder if people were going to find out about all of this, like during my very normal person corporate interview. But now I think it's like, I was a little quiet about it at first, like not really talking about it because, they didn't know my history and my past. And so I kind of just like kept it to myself for a while. But obviously like it's pretty obvious when I'm eating, and I travel a lot. Thankfully, because I've been doing this for so long, I was traveling so much when I lost my weight initially. I'm pretty comfortable eating in restaurants. You guys know I have all kinds of videos showing like what I order in different restaurants and things. So that makes it easier. Nobody really gives me a hard time about it. Everybody's always very curious and wants to ask questions. But when we go to big corporate events, I'm just very careful to bring my own food, plan ahead, and do all those kinds of things. So that would be the main thing. What clean non-salt seasonings do you use? You said non-salt, but Redmond Real Salt has actual seasonings also. They have like an all-purpose seasoning. They have like a lot of different seasonings. I go to a website called the Spice House, and they have, not all of them are clean. Some of them are sugar, but they don't have like fillers and junk in them. So I get a lot of like my seasonings from the Spice House. I also like Spiceology, but those are not as clean for some people. They're not a fan of, but honestly, like, we use a lot of adobo, paprika, Italian seasoning. We just use a lot of like very basic seasonings, and we kind of like mix up our own. So you can, like a normal Italian seasoning, I made my pork today with some adobo, a little Italian seasoning, and some garlic paste. Like that was pretty it. So a lot of times we keep things simple, with salt, pepper, garlic. Actually, we don't use a lot of pepper, but Chris uses like hot peppers is what he uses. But salt, garlic, paprika, but smoked paprika, adobo, those are ones we use a lot. But if you're looking for some kind of like blend, or Redmond's has a taco seasoning that we really like that's very clean. I make my own taco seasoning though. Honestly, most of the time that ends up being, I just went to Pinterest and Googled like taco seasoning recipe, and I just like throw all of those spices into a bowl or into the ground beef to try to keep that really simple. What else? I mean, honestly, like if I only could pick one seasoning ever, we use the Goya adobo and smoked paprika. And like that combination is just delicious. Adobo is like, there's some salt and white, I think there's white pepper in there and garlic. And I don't even know what else is in there, but it's a really good blend. But honestly, with anything that has to do with seasonings, like it's kind of just all about like, what are you sensitive to? So some people are going to be sensitive to like even homemade taco seasoning because some of those ingredients have nightshades or have like, you know, more reaction. People react to those things. Thankfully, we keep things pretty clean. My kids use like sugar-free ketchup, sugar-free barbecue sauce. However, let's pat myself on the back today. Nathaniel sat down. He always dips like his meat in sugar-free barbecue sauce or something. And he goes, hang on, let me taste your pork today without barbecue sauce. And he ate a bite and he was like, I think this is good enough without barbecue sauce. So I felt like that was a big win that he was excited about. So yeah. Let's see. I got like 3 minutes left and then I'm going to go do my thing for the night. So any other final thoughts? Let me just say, as we are wrapping up, I do have a community. I'm going to do a live stream in my locals community on Tuesday night. So I have a quick 24-hour work trip tomorrow. And then Tuesday night, I'm going to do another live stream where we hang out just like this. The only difference is it's a much smaller group. And so I answer every single question. I read every comment. This is also kind of like a Facebook group where you can join for free, but if you want to post your own stuff and you want to interact with the rest of the group, it's like $10 a month. And honestly, it's just because that keeps out all the trolls and anybody who's we don't want to deal with. So it's really just for that. I mean, like all the apps and all the fees and everything that eats up, it's really just more about like keeping out people who are going to be distracting and not helpful. And I also post all my videos there early. So I have a new video that's coming out on Tuesday, and I'm going to give this group access to that tomorrow. But if you want to hang out on another live stream this week, I do them in there almost every week while I do YouTube monthly. Then you can come join over there for and hang out on the live stream on Tuesday. So that's about it. Yeah, it is only 5 o'clock here in Arizona. I know it's really late on the East Coast, but I hope you all are doing well. Let me see. Anything else final before I go? Yeah, I hope you are doing well. So have a wonderful rest of your June. If you have been off track and not doing well in June, get your crap together. You still got a week left. You still have a week to finish June strong. We got a lot of holidays coming up, but you know what? They're fun. They're July 4th. You should be able to grill hot dogs and hamburgers and barbecue and steaks. Like this is such a great time. Let's really get things right. Make yourself feel better. I'll tell you what, I live in Arizona. I moved here when I was like over 200 pounds. I've lived here 250, 260 pounds, and I was terrified to leave the house. It is so miserable to be swollen and unhealthy in the summers. And like, it is not too late. You will feel better. Honestly, give yourself a couple of weeks and you are going to feel like a totally new person by the time we hit July 1st. So start today, start tomorrow, and check back in with me on the next live stream and let me know how you feel. So thanks for hanging out tonight. Bye.